Okay, speaking of time, Rafi here is going to let me know if I go for 45 minutes.
Okay.
So, Shabbat Shalom, friends.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're assembled here today in minority. A small yet progressive, ancient yet often misunderstood, ubiquitous yet isolated people. Jews. Along with our guests tonight, all of whom are also welcome. We are all welcome and we are all safe. In fact, I'd like to congratulate us on behalf of the Trans Empowerment Committee from CBST, Keshet, and the other organizations putting this together on creating such a safe space that even the Shabbos Queen felt comfortable to come out. And doesn't she look fabulous? By the way, she asked me to let you know her preferred pronouns are she, her, and hers, unless you're acknowledging her in Hebrew, and then it's he. I just want to preface that our holy book describes crustaceans as shellfish and cetaceans as big fish. So with a total of acts and precision, I hope to make up with in creativity. This week's Parsha, Shelach, in the book of Numbers, is one of my personal favorites because it discusses the spies of Israel, like the proto-Messiah. There's some other stuff about getting stoned with big rocks. But let's stick to the spies for tonight because there's kids in the room. So here's the run-up to the story. The people of Israel just left the land of Egypt, received and accepted the Torah at Sinai, and have traversed the desert all the way to the borders of the Promised Land. Nearly 2 years have elapsed since the Exodus. Our ancestors have been sustained by manna from heaven, perhaps a little manna from Shabbat. They're growing weary. Hashem calls forth the people to select 12 spies who will venture into the land and explore and report back both its physical attributes as well as about the local inhabitants. Now, this part gets a little weird to me. Spies are awesome, duh, but why now? God said to Abraham, Lech lecha, go. He just picked up and left, didn't even know where to. God said to Moses, time to go. We didn't even bother to wipe the blood off the doorposts. By the way, how do you clean up a bloody doorpost? 10 Pascal pads. So here we are sending out our spies, each among them a prince, up for the rigors of the task of 40 days exploring the bounty of the land. They brought back some fruit. Well, that's no surprise, there's fruit in the Holy Land. In fact, they can serve in the army. And some pretty pessimistic prospects of conquering the land now inhabited by a race of giants. Now remember, we're the people of Israel at this point. Flash back a little, how did we get this name? Jacob was wrestling with the angels and won, and was renamed Israel. We are not the people who revere God, the people who cherish God, the people who love God. We are forever Israel, the people who struggle with God. Yet usually when push comes to shove, that mighty hand and outstretched arm pushing and shoving, we just go. It wasn't like Hashem was holding back on the overt miracles that this generation had seen with their own eyes. So we're so close to our destination, yet now we're sending spies ahead who inevitably raise fear and doubts, the descent rising to such a level that some preferred returning to Egypt. Well, here's why I think it's a little bit different, and where I think it relates to you and I. The people of Israel have just undergone a major transition in their lives. Does this sound familiar to any of us?
No.
First we were slaves, and all of a sudden we were leaving and wandering the desert. A free people, but one who really doesn't know what to do with it. Seeing and living literal miracles each day in and day out, how free were we really? Perhaps in some ways it's easy to move forward, to make these transitions, to be Abraham and leave, to follow Joseph, to follow Moses forward. But standing on the border of this land was something different. We weren't moving forward, we were coming back. And I don't know if the significance of this detail is stated enough. For each of us, it isn't always the transition that changes, it's going back to the places where we were before. This had been our land. It was totally natural, perhaps, to test the waters, to send spies, as each of us have done, or have been, going out clandestinely, exploring anonymity of the internet, talking to friends, getting help through support groups, etc. In fact, it's perfectly realistic to feel terrified. So much so that many of us would have chosen to return to Egypt, Mitzrayim, our own personal struggle. If you know that word in Hebrew means from the narrows, our own personal struggle, our own personal closets. Our ancestors were trying to conquer the land. Our struggle is just to exist at all. Coming back is weird. I came back home one night and was behind on laundry. I put on a pair of my own boxers to go to sleep in. I wondered to myself, is this making my own girlfriend? That alone was a level of intimacy I wasn't quite yet comfortable with. But sometimes introducing ourselves again, we can be surprised with the results. So what would certainly be complete without a story? I call this one the Boston Jewish semi-love story. In short, a nice Jewish boy met a nice Jewish girl at a modern Orthodox type congregation. They had great conversations, had a lot in common, hit it off totally, and it went nowhere. Like so many of them do. Now the seasons changed. I'm not sure when this began, but now it's early spring and Pride came to town. Yes, that Pride. The look on their faces as they were lining up for the Keshet section of the Pride parade must have been spectacular. Nice Jewish girl called out to, "Other nice Jewish girl? What the heck are you doing here?" So it turned out, nice Jewish girl was coming to terms with her attraction to fellow nice Jewish girls. Nice Jewish boy, well, actually other nice Jewish girl, was coming to terms with that. So I'll spoil the end of the story. It still went nowhere. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It's really cute. But if you were thinking for just a second, then you will understand just how powerful the idea of introducing ourselves yet again can be. Before, each of these two individuals wrote each other off based on the anticipated expectations of the other. Yet in reality, they had much more potential than they could have ever expected. So tonight, put out or seek out that little bit of new information from somewhere else here tonight. I'm a little bit dull, but find somebody. Be that spy of Israel and report back. Because as we build new bridges toward one another and discover new points of connection, perhaps even chances for love, we may find that the only vitriolic intolerance which we are left with is an intolerance towards intolerance itself. As the portion goes on, we learn that the Israelites, true to their name, did struggle with Hashem, did feel scared, did feel worried, introducing themselves once again. This skepticism was costly, an additional 38 years in the desert. But for those of us in this room, we've already had our struggles with the Almighty. Nobody's ever said, wow, being genderqueer, trans, or non-binary is so convenient. Nobody has ever said, why does my own image not reconcile with the image in which I was created? And that's awesome. And yet here we are, proving true as being as much a part of the people of Israel as anyone else. And if anyone tells you otherwise, they're wrong. They simply don't know what it means to be Israel, to struggle with God, more than anyone in this room. It isn't very hard to put one another in the position of the young Israelites, having undergone this major transition from slavery to freedom, preparing themselves for the difficult task of introducing ourselves once again. Of course there were grumblings, of course there was fear, skepticism, and even those who wished to turn back to Mitzrayim, their own personal closets. The people of Israel were now free, yet not even quite sure what to do with it. How to be free. Just like each and every one of us assembled here today, being Jewish, being queer, being transgender, being ourselves. Whatever your path may take you, don't wait 40 more years to take the first steps. Don't fear the giants. They might just be windmills. Be that spy. Venture out into the unknown, knowing not that you are leaving all that is familiar, but in fact returning to it. Remember that we have been there before, as queers, as Jews, and that we do not walk alone. Just a little shout out to Philadelphia and a very wonderful scholar named Benjamin Franklin, who said, "We must all hang together, or assuredly we will hang separately, at least until we get our bottom and top surgeries respectively." So, in short, when you're free and you're not sure what to do with it, and standing on the borders of an uncharted territory that really isn't that uncharted at all, remember that walking in Hashem's path and hand in hand, that asserting our freedom of expression is the most powerful expression of freedom there is. Shabbat Shalom.